All right. Welcome in to the A to Z Sports Big Orange Podcast. I am Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reagan. Wherever you listen throughout the world, thank you very much for listening to us. We talk everything Vols here every week on the Big Orange Podcast. If you want to listen to that on the reg, go over to the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed on Apple or Spotify. When you get there, rate, review, but you got to subscribe. If you do subscribe, you won't miss our shows when we drop them on Mondays. Speaking of Mondays, it is one right now at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, which means we're live on the YouTube channel. That is the A to Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers YouTube channel. Go there, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And for anybody watching so far, hit that like button. We appreciate it. But that notification bell, because then you'll be notified when we go live. And it doesn't matter when we go live because you'll know. And you can come hang out with us. It's always a great time. At Charlie_Burris, at Zach TNT, at A to Z Sports, Facebook.com/A to Z Sports Nashville, and A to Z Sports.com for everything Zach writes on the internet. And boy, howdy, Zach. They never make it easy, do they? 17-point game in the bag. You're thinking, oh, we're cruising, baby. And then, we were sweating there at the end of the Arkansas game, but you won. You won nonetheless. Victory week for Tennessee with Alabama on the horizon. What's up, man?
Yeah, it was another week of just relief once that clock hit zero, kind of like the Mississippi State game. And, I know we're going to get into this game and the game coming up, but I really think this is just life in the SEC from now on, as long as we're in this current era of NIL and transfer portal, and as long as rosters are flipping and changing year to year as much as they are, I think this is just the new reality for college football fans. And I think that we're going to see the sport adjust to that a little bit. As a little overarching view there, I think you're going to see seasons where you got these wild variances and outcomes, like Florida State last year, Penn State this year. So just buckle up. There might be a year where Tennessee has a couple losses that shouldn't happen, but that doesn't mean that they're not doing the right thing. And I think that game on Saturday against Arkansas is a perfect example of that. There was a lot of frustrating things that happened in that game, but ultimately Tennessee got the win, and that's really all that matters these days. I don't think margin of victory is that big of a deal anymore.
Yeah, obviously we're going to talk about all of it, including, should we be worried that you got played close by Arkansas? Yeah, we'll discuss it all. But the big thing that is happening on Saturday, of course, you go to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, old Tuscaloosa, and you got to play the Crimson Tide the third Saturday in October, which maybe we could start here. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Arkansas game, but did you see that they released a logo for the third Saturday in October and touted like introducing the third Saturday in October logo, which couple of things. Nobody asked for that. And fine, whatever. Logo's a logo. It's not that big of a deal. But is this just a setup for them to make the the stinking Cracker Barrel third Saturday in October? They're gonna slap a company logo on it. It's what it feels like. Maybe I'm just being cynical.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. that does feel
that's
like
what it is.
That's where that's heading. I mean, that's trying to get it on uniforms, sponsor logos, everything. Nothing's off limits anymore. Nothing's sacred. Hopefully they never, try to officially change the name of Neyland Stadium or anything like that. That would be a step too far, but we are certainly moving in that direction. And as money becomes more and more important to these athletic departments, I think they'll leave no stone unturned when it comes to finding new revenue streams.
You will buy the T-shirt for the Aflac third Saturday in October. You will. Make no mistake about it. All right. Well, we'll give our full preview and prediction for the Alabama game closer to the end of the show. But first, Tennessee and Arkansas. Your final score, 34-31. I don't have it right in front of me.
Yeah.
34-31. You win by 3, although at one point you were up 34-17. And the the real underlying thing here that I think a lot of people are obviously worried about is that it didn't look like you had that much separation from Arkansas. We themed our entire show last week around Tennessee's probably going to kick Arkansas's butt, which if they would have kept their head screwed on straight, you would have won by 17 walking away. In fact, my prediction would have been pretty close to what ended up being the truth if Arkansas had stayed at 17 points. But you didn't. You let them score quickly at the end of the game, and it was tied at halftime, and you were down for a big chunk of the first half, and you didn't really play that well overall, and your defense got absolutely gouged, and you can't friggin' stop a running quarterback to save your life. How worried are we about the sack after that game? Yeah, I mean, win's a win. That's great. But are we worried?
Yeah, I don't really think I'm worried. I wasn't really going to be worried if they lost just because of what I said earlier. I know that's crazy to think about, but I just think in this new world of college football, the gap between rosters is not that big. And, I mean, you saw Arkansas played at Ole Miss really well earlier this season, and the Notre Dame game was, kind of rock bottom for them for sure. But also that's why Sam Pittman got fired, right? Like that game, clearly he didn't have the locker room in the right place. People weren't locked in. Players weren't locked in. Coaches weren't locked in. I mean, at some point you have to make a change. And Bobby Petrino, he's done this before. We all have our thoughts about Bobby Petrino. I think I was probably a little bit wrong last week when I said that he might not have the energy to kind of inject life into this team. I felt like he did inject life into this team. They played hard. They played well. The running back that talked a lot of trash, or not a lot of trash, just the one comment last week, Mike Washington, had a really good game, backed up his trash talk. And the quarterback, obviously, he's a dynamic athlete who's hard to chase down in the open field. And there's a lot of plays where you had success, where you had Arkansas stopped on third down, and he just made plays with his legs, and you weren't able to stop him. So there were so many different factors that went into this game being close, from the inability to stop the Arkansas running game, which it sounds like from Josh Heupel's comments, there was a few looks that maybe they weren't certain about, that they misfit. On the flip side, struggling to move the ball a little bit early was that same kind of concept there. They got some looks from Arkansas. They didn't really know what they were going to get. They had to adjust to that. I think in the second half, you saw Tennessee make some important adjustments. Bobby Petrino talked about after the game that Tim Banks went from dropping everybody back in coverage to kind of stacking the box and daring Arkansas to throw the ball. And Arkansas continued to try to run it. You stopped it a little bit better in the second half. I think they had like 80 some yards of rushing in the second half compared to whatever it was, 160 something in the first half. So you got better there. You made the adjustment. And then really that fourth quarter, and that's a whole nother conversation that I think we can have at the end of this when we wrap up the Arkansas game. You just gave them the opportunity to get back into the game by the way that you managed the end of that game, by the way Josh Heupel managed the end of that game. And so I think there's a few things that could have happened differently in this game. Honestly, it reminded me, I texted our group text this in our Tennessee group text, that it reminded me a little bit of the 2022 Florida game. Not exactly, because that was more you got burnt by Anthony Richardson throwing the ball, but it was a similar game where you had to have a drive right before halftime that was really important to put points on the board, and then it looked like you're pulling away in the fourth quarter. You're up by 17. It was the same thing in that Florida game. I think you were up by like 18 or something, and you just kind of let them get back into it. So even that 22 team that we all love so much kind of had some games like this against probably a similar team. I mean, this Arkansas team, it might finish somewhere around the same record as that Florida team. 6 wins, maybe, if they can get there. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's 5 wins. I don't know. We'll see how the rest of their season plays out. I think they'll win some games. I think they'll get somebody, but I think it's a similar talented team or similar coach team, whatever, as that Florida team in 22. So you had a game like that before, and you've had games in the past too, like the Kentucky game in 22, where a couple of big plays completely flipped the momentum of that game, turned it into a blowout. NC State game last season was the same way. You had a couple plays early in that game where it kind of flipped it, where it was close early, and then it turned into a blowout. You missed a couple of those plays in this game. You missed a touchdown to Brazel in the end zone, 2 touchdowns to Brazel in the end zone, in fact. And turnovers you didn't capitalize on, where you didn't score after you forced them to turn the ball over. There was opportunities there where they just didn't put the game away. If they execute in those areas, I think we're looking at this game in a completely different way.
I would agree. Very similar to Mississippi State. If you make the plays that you should have made, you win this thing running away. Unlike Mississippi State, you actually had a pretty sizable lead in this Arkansas game. They just had to, excuse me, they just had to adjust after that first half. It seemed like we even predicted that last week, where you knew Arkansas was going to come out, pull some stuff out of a hat, and be energized, and do all these things, and they did. And then you settled in, and you're especially defensively in that second half. Until the final 5 minutes, your talent just kind of put its foot on the gas and said, "All right, now is the time where we win this football game." And that's good. And I do still look, especially at the defense. The offense overall, Joey Aguilar, dog, best game of Deshaun Bishop's career to this point. Hopefully he's all right. According to Josh Heupel today in press conference, he left it a little open-ended in a classic Josh Heupel way. He said, how did he phrase it? I expect that Deshaun will be ready to play.
Yeah. It was funny as I think it was Brent Hubbs maybe that asked that question. Apologies if it wasn't, but he asked the question about Bishop, and he kind of suggested like, hey, he's hurt. When's he going to be back? How long is he going to be out? Like the way that Brent phrased it, which was completely fair, is the way any of us would have phrased it. And Heupel kind of, I wouldn't say he got smart. It was more in a fun-loving way. I think he has a really good relationship with Brent, but he said, have you been talking to our team trainers? You know, something I don't, kind of response with Bishop. So the lightheartedness from Heupel makes me think he'll be fine to play, but at the same time, it's Josh Heupel. Who knows if he'll play? His own offensive staff might not know if Bishop's going to play until Saturday.
I think there's an equal chance that Deshaun Bishop plays the entire game against Alabama as there is a chance that he is out until the bowl game.
Yeah.
Like that.
If he's lucky, the fact that it's even on the table for him to play, and sounds like he got lucky to avoid a major injury. Super fortunate, because it was a hip drop tackle, which is not illegal in college at this point. It should be, although if you get hurt on one of those, I don't think you really care if they throw the flag or not. I mean, the damage is done type deal, but it would deter some of those. But a lot of times in those situations, that's the only way you can get a player down, and that's kind of what it was with Bishop there. He's really lucky that wasn't worse than it was. We may never know the exact diagnosis of what happened there, but sprain, I don't know. He's just lucky it wasn't a broke leg.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it in full real time immediately without the slow-mo replay, and I was like, oh, he's done. Yep.
Yeah.
He's done. That's unfortunate. And thankfully, it looks like that wasn't the case. Really escaped with your life there, hopefully.
Yeah, he was huge in that game. 10 yards a carry.
But like I said, best game of his career. He was really excellent, was just running like an absolute madman, which was awesome to see, especially on a day where it just Star Thomas just wasn't working. Where earlier in the season, especially after that Georgia game, we were really saying like, feed Star Thomas, feed Star Thomas, feed Star Thomas. This guy is clearly your best dude. And Deshaun, I don't know if he kind of heard that chirping and said, hey, actually, I'm that number one guy. Whatever it is, I don't care. You play the hot hand and you play the best dude, and Deshaun was the best dude on Saturday, and I'll take it. You also, I think, you escaped something serious with Braylon Staley. He ended up coming back in the game.
Yeah,
I think after his injury, which doesn't always mean they're all right, but is usually a good sign. And so you avoided that one.
Aguilar's okay, we think. I mean, he just got a breath wind knocked out of him.
Oh, and that, I mean, how scared were you when
Joey?
Oh my gosh!
Because I was thinking, can Mertlinger do what needs to be done to win this game? At that point,
exactly.
You had no room for error at all, and
you still had to get a first down at that point.
Yes, and your offensive playbook, I think, at that time shrinks a bit. I just think there's more there with Aguilar. And then, obviously the rest of the season, who knows what you would have been dealing with at that point. Thank goodness that doesn't appear to be a concern. But definitely in that moment, that was very scary. Just the way he fell, the way he went to the ground. You weren't really sure what was going on, and that's SEC though. You gotta be careful as a quarterback. You cannot take those hits. I mean, these guys are a lot of future NFL players out there in the field you're going up against, and I love Aguilar's competitiveness, and I love what he does when he touches the ball and has to run. I think he has good field awareness. I think he's the best runner you've had as far as instincts since Hendon Hooker in 22. But man, don't take those hits, please.
Yes. Oh, I cringe because he's trying to make that play, and you just go, "Oh, we need you for the rest of the season. Please don't. It's okay. You can just slide. We get it." And yeah, it seemed like he just kind of landed on the football on his
Yeah,
stomach.
that's what he said.
Yeah, and he's should be fine. David Hobbs should be fine. I think
I would think,
did he come back
man.
in?
I think he did. I'm not 100% on that, but man, he played. He showed up. He was a
Yes,
huge. He made a huge impact in that
and
game, and he's a really good player. I think he really changes what you can do on the defensive line as far as depth, keeping guys fresh, and he's just a dynamic guy. I mean, a lot of guys along that defensive line have stepped up, and really the defense. This defense is so strange. That we'll get into that a little bit, I guess. And Jay mentioned there, it asked if Banks made any adjustments in the second half. He did. According to Petrino, I mentioned this a minute earlier, he started, kind of crowding the box, bringing the safeties up closer to the line of scrimmage to take the runaway, basically daring Arkansas to throw the ball. I think the structure of what Banks wants to do makes sense. I just don't think this team can play zone defense for whatever reason, and they're just getting picked apart when they're in zone defense, and it's something they have to be better in. Is that has to be a weapon that you can break out, right? Like you've got to be able to be multiple and mix up your looks and play zone, play man, depending on the matchup, depending on what the other offense is doing. And right now, they just can't get anything going consistently with zone defense. But at the same time, the defense is making plays. Like you're forcing turnovers. I think you forced 4 fumbles in that game, recovered a couple of them. 9 tackles for loss, 4 or 5 sacks, several quarterback hits. I mean, you're making impact plays on defense. So it's not like it's all bad on defense. Like you got some playmakers, you got some dudes that are stepping up. I said along that defensive line, like Tyree West. I mean, that guy
yes,
getting after the quarterback. Made an effort play early in that game too, where there was a play down the sideline where there was a missed tackle. I can't remember turn time, maybe I can't remember who it was. Missed a tackle, and there's an angle where you see Tyree West running from the line of scrimmage. I mean, hustling, all out effort to run and make the play. And I think it was the Arkansas running back that, if he doesn't make that tackle, he probably scores. So guys like that, Hobbs, Bryson Eason, Josephs, Herring, Caleb Herring. I mean, a lot of guys really stepping up and making some plays. You just got to be able to get off the field on third down. I mean, that's been the biggest thing. You got to get off the field on third down. If they could do that, they just find a way to turn that around. I think this defense can flip into a weapon really, really quick just because of that playmaking ability that I mentioned.
Yeah, it seems like it's so close because you're really hanging your hat on bend don't break and making havoc turnovers. Like that's the real strategy. And I get it. But as Alabama, it's got to be better than that. You have to get off the field on third down. You have to.
Yeah.
Period. Yep. They have to. And thankfully, Ty Simpson not really running quarterback. He has a little bit of agility, but nowhere close to what Taylor Green was bringing there. I mean, Taylor Green's one of the leading rushers in the SEC, where I think on the entire season, Ty Simpson has like 50 rushing yards or something. So, I think it's so key that they can get off the field on third down. It's going to be really tough. Every team for the rest of the season outside of maybe like Kentucky.
Yeah.
But that is just the one thing where you're just like, oh, we're getting these turnovers, getting into the backfield, killing these quarterbacks, and how are we not getting a third down stop? How? And it does really kill me. Daniel on Facebook, he does bring up, we should be worried about the officials. Tennessee hasn't played an SEC game that was called fairly. I mean, there were bad calls going both ways in that game, but man, it's the officiating in that game. Obviously, really, were there bad calls both ways? Because really, there were just no calls going on Arkansas's way, which was really the main problem.
Yeah, I'm sure Tennessee got away with some stuff. I know there's a clip. And they got away with like a false start on one of the plays near the end of the game.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
But which look, there's going to be missed calls. Like it's the human element. It's a tough deal. It's really easy to look at it from the TV angle in slow motion and be like, how could you miss this? So I understand it's a difficult job. My problem with the officiating in the SEC in general is that it's so inconsistent. The structure of the operation, the whole game day operation for the officiating crews in the SEC is madness. They add, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes on every game, I swear, by just taking forever to figure out what a play should be, what the procedure is to call the penalty, time on the clock. I mean, they just waste a lot of time trying to get through everything. That you watch an NFL game, it runs so much smoother. I think these SEC officials, honestly, and this is just my perception, I think they are intimidated by some of these head coaches. I think you see it with Kirby Smart. You saw it with Nick Saban for years. Like that game against Auburn on Saturday night with Georgia, where Auburn was completely screwed. The touchdown, the timeout deal with Kirby, and the clapping and all that, and just straight up basically lying and saying he didn't call a timeout, and he gets away with all of that because he can say whatever he wants. And it's like these officials are like, we have to believe it. It's Kirby Smart. He's won national championships. Like, I don't know if that's exactly what's going through their head, but you almost feel like that's impacting what they do. And Kirby works these officials before games. He tells them what to look for, like the substitution thing with Tennessee last season that we talked about on here and wrote about and discussed for the whole week after that game. The clapping thing with Auburn, where he said that he had notified the officials that they clap on defense. And here's my theory real quick on what happened with that. I think Kirby, the play clock was running down. He was notified that somebody was clapping on Auburn's defense. And I think he just lost what he was doing and ran to call timeout without really thinking about what he was doing. And then when they stopped the play, he's like, oh no, I wasn't trying to call timeout. I was trying to tell you that they were clapping and that you should call a penalty or whatever. And they were like, oh, okay, well, we'll undo the timeout. Like you can't do that. I don't care what your intentions were. Not to get off on this whole long tension about SEC officiating, but I do think that's part of it. And I think Heupel needs to be better at working the officials and communicating with them ahead of games and doing what you said on Twitter and you've said on this show before, stopping with the down lineman after the extra point because you were just slapping the officials in the face. Because even the SEC network announcer, Dave Neal, is making jokes about it now. Like, you're not doing yourself any favors. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I could not agree more. Heupel, you got to be a psycho with these refs. Because they will do what you want. They'll do your bidding if they fear you, like they do with Kirby. Like they do. I've said it in the same conversation, like they do with Rick Barnes. Rick Barnes will drag a ref by his collar on the sideline and yell in his ear. And then the calls can be turned around. And Heupel just never does. And then he does the whole lay down lineman thing after the extra point. And all of that, like, you got to make breaks work in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
And you are actively doing things that make it where you're not going to get those things. I mean, that clapping thing with Kirby's the most shameless, just, oh my gosh, just sickening. It is incredible. I mean, not that it would have saved Auburn in that game. Auburn blew that game sky high, but their offense is so garbage, and that's their own fault. But yeah, I mean, just come on. But please stop with the lay down lineman. It is Bush League. It needs to stop. Tons of people have noticed it. I mean, if you're getting clowned by Dave Neal, man, it's over. It's over. Stop doing it. I honestly, it made me legit laugh. Like, they showed the extra point in slow mo, and they went, where did this injury happen? I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the injury. It's like, dude, at this point, you gotta just cut it out. Heupel's not gonna, but yeah, it is.
Yeah, He,
Is what it is.
I feel like he's more combative with the officials and reactive to bad calls instead of being proactive, which
Yes.
can look combative, but it's an art, like you said with Rick Barnes. Like there's an art to it. You can't cross the line. You know what you can and can't say. All you're trying to do is get those plays, get those calls in the official's mind. So when they do see it, they don't hesitate to throw that flag. And if you get one DPI call that you should get, it's worth it. And that's what Kirby does. That's what Saban did for years. It's what a lot of head coaches do. Look, I wrote this in an article. I was a little bit critical of Heupel, and we haven't talked about that end of game situation where they could have put the game away, but they didn't, and they punted the ball back to Arkansas. I think that's an area where Heupel can improve. But he says that good teams get better as the season goes along. He says that after every single game. I think the same is true of good coaches too. Like good coaches got to get better as the season goes along as well. And the officiating and handling that is just an area where he can grow and get better. And the end of game situations, you saw it in the Mississippi State game. You saw it in this game against Arkansas where you could have gone for it on fourth down and put the game away when you were up, 10, I think, at that point. And you chose to give the ball back, which you're still going to have to go get first downs the next time you get the ball back. Like, I didn't think that was the right decision. It worked out this time. It didn't work out for you against Georgia. I mean, you lost the game because of that decision, because you kicked the field goal instead of going for it and trying to put the game away. Where's the aggressiveness? Like, where has that gone? I think 2022 Heupel goes for that 10 times out of 10.
It is a shame. I think he has, since the stakes are consistently higher, I think he's kind of lost that edge a little bit. It's easier to be risky when there's not as much on the line.
That's a good point.
It's what it feels like to me. But to move on to this Alabama game, I mean, we do have to discuss it. You got to go to Tuscaloosa on Saturday. Jay comes on. He says, the thing that concerns me is the inability to stop the run. We've seen similar plays against Mississippi State, Arkansas, and Syracuse. Right up the middle or QB run to the outside for 8 to 12 yards happens early and often. Do you think Banks made adjustments during that second half? I don't. I don't think he made adjustments that second half. I think they started wearing Arkansas down and just started getting home. A lot more of those hits. Just your talent kind of started taking over. And it against Alabama on Saturday, this is a better fit for what your defense does. But potentially Jam Miller is out. We don't know yet.
Concussion protocol.
Yes, he did get a concussion in that game on Saturday. And that's a big loss. They don't run the ball well without him. So that's huge. Then he was out, the first 3 weeks of the season, lost to Florida State during that time, yada, yada. We all saw it. Obviously, Ty Simpson's got a little bit better in that time. And by a little bit, I mean a lot. But still, it just is losing contain on the edge. I mean, it's been brutal. The way that they've just given up the edges on this defense. I mean, it's a fair point from Jay. Just the running quarterback is one thing, but not everybody has that. Not being able to control the edges has been every game for Tim Banks' entire tenure at Tennessee. Also, giving up passes across the middle. And you combine those two things, and I expect them to probably make sure, as they have done in multiple games already this season, that really against Mississippi State, but also having against Arkansas to a certain extent too, I expect them, they're probably going to let Alabama run the football some to ensure that they don't give up anything over the top. I would like to see the exact opposite. I say make Ty Simpson beat you. He might. He absolutely might. He has the ability to do that. But at least make him do it, and then try to land hits on him with the edge rushers that have been so effective this season. Maybe that's just talked about the post-game show that we would really like to see a little bit of a philosophy change there from Banks, but you got to do something, or else this defense is going to get exposed against Alabama.
Yeah, I think it's time to throw some new wrinkles in there with your defensive scheme or switch up what you're doing because I think there's something within the structure of what Tennessee's doing, whether it's the way they play the gaps. I don't know, but I think teams are seeing something there from Tennessee's defense that they can exploit, and they are. So you're gonna have to make some sort of adjustment because whoever said in the comments, Syracuse, Mississippi State, Arkansas, they've all done the same things to gain yards on Tennessee. It seems like, I mean, they're just running it straight up the middle at times, and you have nothing there. It seems like I don't know what the answer is. I'm not an SEC defensive coordinator, but clearly what you're doing is not working. Like you said, you can't do that against Alabama, especially on the road, and expect to win this game. Like the worst thing that can happen on the road is a team putting together a long drive where they just run the ball right down your throat methodically and slowly and get to the end zone and score and take 8 minutes off the clock. And that turns into a game that you're not, it's just hard to win that type of game. And that's not exactly Alabama's identity, but if they have to do that, they'll do that. Like they'll do what they have to do to win the game, and they will exploit the matchups that they can exploit. And that's one that you should be worried about if you're a Tennessee fan going into this game. Like there's not, based on what we've seen so far, it's like, all right, we're hoping something changes, but who knows if it actually will. It's a, you're so good against the run last season, and you lost some personnel up front, but not that much. I mean, you lost Omari Thomas, you lost Omar Norman Lott, Elijah Simmons. Those are guys that were good against the run, but you've still got really talented guys on this team that have played well this season, especially rushing the passer. So I don't know what the deal is with the run. I would like to see. Unfortunately, we won't in the first half next week because he's suspended for the first half. Edwin Spillman for the targeting call, which was not a good play on his part. It was clearly targeting and a late hit, and he just made a bad decision on that play, especially before playing Alabama. But I love watching Jeremiah Thielander play. I love the effort he plays with, but the speed, he just doesn't have elite SEC speed, it doesn't feel like. Spillman seems like a guy that can get to those edges easier. Jaden Perlotti as well. He made a really nice play chasing down the quarterback Saturday night against Arkansas. Yes. So, I mean, those are guys that's about the only way you can combat some of this stuff is with speed. And I think you got to find a way to get your fastest guys on the field at this point.
Yeah, I'm honestly interested with Spillman out. I'm interested to see Perlotti because he'll have to make sound tackles, which is tough to do for a freshman, but he definitely has the speed out there. He showed that in that game. He was about the only guy that could run down Taylon Green. Finally got him at an angle that got out of bounds before he got, a freaking 20-yard gain on you.
Yeah.
So
and to run all the way across the field at one point. And I mean, so it's an impressive athleticism.
It was. But he's freshman. And so I'm not going to expect huge things out of him. That would be amazing, but I just don't think you can. But as far as Alabama goes, it's about making Ty Simpson beat you. And they have, somebody's put in the comments, they've proved that they can win. It was Tyler here. They've proved they can win without even using Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams isn't the number one wide receiver. It's Jeremy Bernard, and the other kid. Well, I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, Williams has been banged up a little bit, but if you take away that Georgia game last season, he hasn't been as dynamic as you would think. I mean, he's a really good player. He's still young too. I mean, he's only 18. He's not even 19 until February. So he's got a lot of growing and developing to do. So I don't want to write the guy off by any means. He could have a huge game at any point, but he hasn't. Outside of that Georgia game last year, he really hasn't been as dynamic. Bama's weird under DeBoer. Like they're a very Jekyll and Hyde-ish type team. I mean, they can look dominant, downright dominant at times, and then they just don't show up in some of these games, like the Florida State game or the Oklahoma game last season or Vanderbilt. And which version of Alabama are you going to get on Saturday night? I don't know. Like I don't know what their identity is really as a team. They still feel like they're trying to find their way in the post Nick Saban era. I think DeBoer is a good coach. I don't know if long term he's going to be the right fit at Alabama just because he's so different from Nick Saban, and I mean, you saw what happened at Penn State, right? I mean, they started the season as a national championship contender. They were one game away from the championship last season. 6 games into the year, a guy that's been there a decade is gone. Now, whatever you think of James Franklin, that's a pretty drastic move to make. Like Florida State could have done that last year with Norville. They didn't. Maybe they should have because after that Alabama game, they haven't played very well this season. But I mean, it can flip that quickly. So DeBoer, yeah, I don't know how it'll work out for him at Alabama. I know everybody's high on him because they beat Wisconsin. They beat Georgia, which I think that game, like I've said before, is kind of like Michigan, Ohio State at this point. They're just in Georgia's head for whatever reason. I don't think, some of those rivalry games, you can't really take too much away from the results. And that's not to downplay that win for Bama, but that's just the fact of that rivalry. But, who was Missouri? I mean, I'm still not 100% sold that Missouri's this great as everybody thinks they are because they've played soft schedules the last 2 seasons.
Quarterback was bad in that game.
Yeah.
Duke couldn't throw a pass.
So, I mean, you barely win that game. How good is Alabama? Like, are they a top 5, 6 team in the country like everybody thinks they are right now? Is Tennessee, a top 10 team? I don't know. Like, we're going to learn a lot about both of these teams on Saturday. And maybe Alabama surprises me and blows Tennessee out. I don't know. But I just Alabama is not as scary as they were in the Saban era. They're just not.
They aren't. And it's to me, it's 2 things to really watch out for. One, it's huge if Jay Miller plays or not, because I think that has a big impact on whether they can run on you. And then Ty Simpson being able to throw the ball is, to your point, you said Ryan Williams has been a little banged up. Is he banged up? And then how do your DBs play in that situation? How do your linebackers play? And can you land hits on Ty Simpson? That is going to be so massive. Can they have him seeing ghosts? That would be really big. And then obviously you got to score points on the offensive side of the ball. And I see in the comments, Brandon Frazier, he just said Charlie Burris. Brandon, old friend of mine from way back, son of the great Roger Frazier. We went to school together. What's up, man? Good to see you. Put in the comments. But the team. I said this to Crompton on Saturday. The team can beat Bama is absolutely in there. It's unlocking it, and A1A is landing hits on Ty Simpson because that will help your cornerbacks. That will have him shaken, and that's just so huge. And then it goes without saying. I mean, Joey Aguilar has to have game of his life. He has to sort of recreate that Georgia magic, except this time shut the door and actually complete your great game there. It's very possible. You need Deshaun to be healthy, to run the ball as effectively as you can, and some things like that. But it's possible. It's very, very possible, and it almost makes me feel better that Aguilar has had kind of iffy games the last couple of weeks. Definitely not bad. I mean, you won both games, but the last couple, you're just like, he had an okay game. It was all right. It's almost like he's setting himself up to be due for a great one. He's due.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not like Tennessee's playing like overperforming at this point. I mean, they've left a lot out there, and they've been, some of the teams they play have left some things out there too. That's just football these days. But to this one, I think, that 23 game in Tuscaloosa is the one you keep thinking about how Tennessee could have and probably should have won that game, and they just disappeared in the second half. You've got to play a 4-quarter game. You cannot disappear for an entire quarter, as some Josh Heupel teams have been prone to do. I think that's the biggest key in this is you've just 60 minutes. You cannot waste any opportunities. If you get a turnover, you got to get at least 3 points. I mean, you need 7, especially on the road, but you can't not score after
capitalizing on turnovers was huge in that Arkansas game. I mean that.
Yeah. So if Bama gives you if Ty Simpson turns it over, and that's gonna be tough to turn him over. I think he only has 1 interception so far this season. if you do manage to get one, you've got to capitalize on it. And I think was it Blind Squirrel Sports up here mentioned that Simpson would get rid of the ball quickly. I think he is a quick decision maker. That's probably going to be part of Alabama's game plan to combat some of the pressure that Tennessee is able to generate. And like we talked about earlier, there's holes. There is holes in this defense, as much as we all laughed at that comment from Mike Washington last week. But they do make plays, specifically when it comes to hitting the quarterback. If you're Tim Banks, do you bring more pressure and not play a soft coverage and believe that you can get home and risk giving up that big play? You do have some young corners out there, and the safety play hasn't been great. So that's a lot to put on the secondary. If you aren't able to get to Simpson and he has time, he's probably going to make you pay for it down the field. But at the same time, if you think you can win by blitzing and getting to Simpson, do you do that? Because I think if you sit back and let him make quick decisions all day, he's going to move right down the field every time, as much as he wants, based on what we've seen from this Tennessee defense so far.
Sam in the comments on YouTube says, probably still thinks Alabama's better than us. Aguilar just needs solid, no turnover, not the game of his life. I don't agree. So I don't think Alabama's way better than us. I don't think that. They're not. But
I don't know how good
Josh
anybody is, to be fair.
Exactly. I don't think that there's one. Well, seems like Ohio State might be a super team. Sick as that makes me. But, I mean, yeah. Bama is not some massive juggernaut. Nick Saban ain't walking through that door. But what I know is that Josh Heupel has a pretty bad record at 7:30 p.m. in huge games, away games, huge away games, and so I'm expecting. We can hope and dream all we want. I'm expecting Ty Simpson to get his here. I think this is you got to score 35 plus to win. Is how I'm feeling. And so Joey Aguilar does have to have a game of his life. I don't know if that's game of his life. That might be a little hyperbolic. He has to have probably his best game of the season, at least since that Georgia game.
Yeah.
Which was one of the great games you've had against Georgia probably ever in the history of that rivalry. 4 touchdowns. The guy absolutely lit it up, most since 2009. But it has to be special. This has to be a special performance. It just does, especially if Deshaun Bishop is hurt. Then more than anything, it has to be a special performance. Bama's not crazy better than you. The team is there for you to beat them, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's got to be really good. It is what it is.
Yeah. I think you're in this spot where there's a big group of teams where if you took the logos off of these teams, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU, Georgia at this point, maybe A&M. I mean, I know they haven't lost yet, but they're probably going to. I don't think they're going to run the table. There's just nobody head and shoulders above. I mean, you saw it. Thought Oklahoma was going to be really good. Now, I know their quarterback came back and was playing hurt, but you still lost to a Texas team that offensively has just not been good at all. They really weren't that good in that game either. Their defense played well and they scored 23 points and that was enough. But all these teams can beat each other. Like outside of Kentucky, which you already mentioned that Kentucky's probably not going to win many games this year, but even they might get somebody. But for the most part, everybody in this conference can beat everybody on any given Saturday. It's more like the NFL than it's ever been before. It's still really tough to win on the road in the SEC. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon just because of the crazy environments that you get, especially in night games. But outside of that, I don't feel like there's any team that's dominant. There's no outcome that's going to shock me. It was like when Florida beat Texas. Did not surprise me. One day I tweeted before that game, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen in this game, but there's no outcome that would surprise me in this game. And I know it feels kind of cheap to kind of like a cop out, but that's just how the SEC is right now. So, if Tennessee goes down there and wins by 10 points, I'm not expecting that necessarily, but it wouldn't shock me. And if Alabama wins by 10 or 17, it wouldn't shock me at all. Like neither one of those outcomes would be surprising. Like flip a coin.
I mean, you were on the doorstep. If Heupel calls a more aggressive game, successfully calls a more aggressive game against Georgia, you were right on the doorstep of beating them by double digits. And you could do the same here. The talent levels between Georgia and Alabama are very similar, very tight game against each other. Alabama is Kirby's Florida, basically, Florida to us. That's his Florida. He just, something about that game is a mental block to him. And so I expect to be close, super competitive, well, but yeah, it surprised me if Alabama pulls away at the end, and it wouldn't surprise me if some things go your way, some turnovers, you do get to Ty Simpson. You really, the ball bounces your way in a couple of spots. Maybe you get some calls, Josh Heupel, with the refs, that you could be in a position to, you're up 3 late in the game. Let's go score a touchdown to shut the door, and you win by 10. Like, that is a distinct possibility in my opinion in this game. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll throw it to you now, Zach. Prediction time. What do you think is going to happen on Saturday?
I think there's a few things that work in Tennessee's favor. A few off the field things that work in Tennessee's favor in this game. I think there's less pressure on Tennessee, despite what we feel as fans. I think nationally the view of Tennessee is, it's nothing like the Penn State situation. There's still a lot of sympathy for Tennessee losing its quarterback in the spring and all of that whole situation, which I don't think anybody at Tennessee is thinking about. But if you lose this game, nobody's like, oh my God, Heupel's in over his head. They just kind of go back to not talking about Tennessee. That's all that's going to happen from a national perspective. If Alabama loses this game, it's your first loss to Tennessee in Tuscaloosa since 2003, since well before the Nick Saban era. Combined with that Florida State loss earlier in the year, I think you're back. I mean, I know that the media attention on Alabama has been very up and down, right? Like, it's very reactionary. It's very hot takey. But I think you'll hear a lot of that if they lose this game. And who knows how the fans will react. I think they're ready to bail on DeBoer. Clearly, at the first sign of adversity, they were ready after that Florida State game. You lose this game, I think they'll be ready once again. So there could be some restlessness in that stadium if Tennessee gets up early. But I don't know if I anticipate all of that coming into play. I think it could be a factor, but at the end of the day, I think you just got to go historically. What's happened is you haven't played well in Tuscaloosa. You've played parts of games well down there at times, but you haven't played a full game well. And Tennessee hasn't really played a full game well this entire season. You almost did against Georgia. If you play that fourth quarter better, you win that game, possibly by double digits, like you mentioned. And then Mississippi State, Arkansas, there's moments in the Syracuse game where you didn't play as well and kind of let them score some points. So Tennessee hasn't proven to me yet that they're going to play this 4-quarter game on the road in this environment. And maybe this is the week where Tennessee has their, Heupel has his masterpiece, right? Like, he has his statement road win, even more than that Oklahoma win last season. Like, you go win in Tuscaloosa, that's huge, right? Like, that's to Heupel's credit, over the last 4 years, he's erased a lot of streaks. First winning against LSU, in over 15 years. First winning against Arkansas since 2007. First winning against Alabama since, 06. Beating Florida for the first time in 2 out of 3 years in 20 years. I mean, that's a lot of streaks that have ended under Heupel. So, I think the one in Tuscaloosa is going to end at some point. I think the one in Gainesville is going to end at some point. Maybe it's this weekend. I just can't pick Tennessee to do it quite yet. I think it'll be a close game, but I think it'll be like a heartbreaker at the end, and Bama wins like 30-27.
Oh, that would be painful, no doubt about it. I so nearly nailed the prediction on the Georgia game. I said that it was going to be a hero drive for Joey Aguilar, and you win on a field goal. So close. Obviously, just feet away from nailing that one. After the Georgia
1 foot away.
Yeah, I mean,
Max Gilbert's
yes, a Max Gilbert foot away from nailing that prediction. But after the Georgia game, we re-predicted the season because Tennessee sort of showed, like, hey, we're here, and maybe we're a big boy now if we're gonna effectively beat Georgia. And so in that reprediction, I said that Tennessee will beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, then lose in the swamp. Because that's the cosmic joke that's going to be played on Tennessee this year. If that actually happens, I think you do still make the playoff, which would be fine. But that outcome would not surprise me at all. And I am going to stick by that prediction. I will say that Tennessee does win in Tuscaloosa. And I kind of like that prediction of you play well, couple of bounces go your way. It's very close, very back and forth. Maybe you're behind for a big part of the game. Maybe, you get that lead 20, 23, 20, something like that. And then it comes down to just who can have the ball last, who can make that big play. Joey Aguilar, been there, done that. He's been knocking on the door of he had the hero drive against Mississippi State. I guess that has already happened, but been knocking on the door of the big time game hero drive. And I think he gets it here. And then you shut the door on him. And I will say 35-27, a little bit like going away, sort of by 8 points instead of just a touchdown. Field. Some about it. I've said it from the beginning of the season. I just feel like Heupel coaches well against Kalen DeBoer. Some about it. And so I'll say Tennessee does win this one. Ben in the comments says, just need to play a full game. Go Big Orange. 28-24, Tennessee. Let's do it. Let's go win this game. Anything else, folks at home, before we bounce out of here, Zach?
No, I mean, I wish it was a noon game for so many different reasons. One,
we'll never get that lucky in this one.
Yeah, at 11 o'clock at night Eastern time, or 12, however long this game will go. It would be very nice to have that be a noon game. But no, I mean, I like the prediction. I think it could very well happen. It's been 22 years since you've won down there. And just the way some of the things have gone this season, I just expect something dumb and unfortunate to happen that just goes Alabama's way, because doesn't it always seem to go their way in Tuscaloosa?
That definitely would be historically correct. There is no doubt about that. Let's see what happens.
It'd be nice if we had Jermod McCoy. If you could see Jermod McCoy out there, that would be a game changer. Missing him is tough. And I know Ty Redmond's getting better at corner. He's going to be a really good player. He's already a good player. He's going to get better. Man, Jermod McCoy, I mean, that would really help. Having him and Colton Hood on the field at the same time would really help combat the effectiveness of Ty Simpson. Because, I mean, I don't – maybe Simpson has a bad – I mean, you never know what's going to happen. I just think Simpson's probably going to play pretty well in this one. I think he's gaining confidence each week, and
he's been good.
Yeah, I mean, that's the path to development, and I know the way things have gone for Arch Manning at Texas, but he's still somewhat young. I think he's 2 years behind Simpson, right? He was a 23 guy. Simpson was 21, Heupel's first year. It's the best path to development for a quarterback. And Peyton Manning has said it for years, like, you want to be in that same system. You don't want to be in the situation that Cam Ward is now in Nashville, where you're going to have a different head coach and different play caller for the rest of the year, and somebody else next year. He's going to have possibly 4 play callers by the end of the next season, because he's already had 2 this season. He's about to have a 3rd probably. So it's much a better situation. We can be like Ty Simpson and just kind of be in the same system for a couple of years and figure it out. And he's playing well.
Chris Todd says Tennessee 48, Big 41. I don't see Tennessee scoring less than 40. That would be, I mean, you have the streak was broken against Arkansas, but every game except that Arkansas game.
And you had chances in the Arkansas game. I mean, Brazel, the one in the end zone where it kind of just lost in the sun. There's another one where Brazel he got his hands on it. It would have been a really good catch, and we've seen him make that catch. He just didn't make it in that instance. They doubled Brazel a lot. They tried to take him out of that game, and Tennessee adjusted by going to Braylon Staley. But I mean, you had chances to score 40 points in that game. You just didn't hit the shots.
Yeah. Daniel says Tennessee 34, Alabama 24. Let's make it happen. Let's go win in Tuscaloosa. I am Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reary. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. We had a Georgia fan in the comments this time. How about that? We are a show for everybody. A to Z Sports Big Orange Podcast. We appreciate you watching. Could not do this show without you. Seriously. That's it. Let's win this football game. Win in Tuscaloosa. It is time. All right. We appreciate you, and we will talk to you next week.